Jon Jones just admitted in a relatively unseen interview with Sportsnet that he would rather relinquish his heavyweight title than to fight Tom Aspinall. And if he had to relinquish his title, he would, to fight Alex Pereira for the BMF title. Now, we're going to take a look at that interview, but there's another interview I also want to take a look at. He did an interview with ESPN MMA where he said some things that were just devoid of logic. I am not one of these outright Jon Jones haters. Everything Jon Jones does is bad. He's ducking this, he's ducking that. I understand the premise of some of the things that Jon Jones has said, but especially in this ESPN MMA interview, he just puts his foot in his mouth. Because maybe if I slightly understand the premise of what he's saying, he throws out rationale that is just completely devoid of logic. And if you watch this channel for any extended period of time, you know there's nothing that gets me more annoyed than throwing out arguments and rationale that is completely devoid of logic. And Jon Jones is hurting himself here. There is a perfectly reasonable narrative that Jon Jones could be pushing for why he doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall and why he will not fight Tom Aspinall. But what he's doing is just making himself look bad. Is really making himself look bad, and it could end really badly at UFC 309. He's put himself in a really bad predicament at UFC 309. We're going to discuss that later in the video. Let's jump right into the ESPN MMA interview. Now, in this interview, he starts off, I'm like, okay, he's kind of making sense here. I know a lot of people aren't going to like what he says, but he's kind of making sense, and then he completely loses me. Completely loses me. Let's listen. He's asked about Tom Aspinall here. I will link this full interview down in the description if you care to go check it out. I've already covered the Kevin Iole interview with Jon Jones. If you care to go check out that video, I'll link it down in the description as well. But listen to this, what he has to say about Tom Aspinall.
Red panty night, right? Tom's head is in the right place. He should want to fight the top guys in the world. I believe that he has time to fight the top guys in the world. As far as fighting me right now, I'm fighting Stipe.
Right.
And you don't make it this far in a UFC career looking past your opponents. I'm aware of Tom and the work that he's put in, or lack thereof. And I think he could have a tremendous future in the UFC. But when you've been...
So at this point, I'm okay with what Jones has said. I understand the little jab about, the work he's done, the lack thereof. I understand what Jones is saying. Tom Aspinall's resume compared to Jones isn't even comparable. But pretty shortly here, in the next 20 seconds or so, he just starts saying things that are just completely devoid of logic, and it drives me nuts. We'll break it down as we go.
Been around this long, you realize that people are here today and gone tomorrow. And maybe eventually, if he can earn some things in the UFC, because I think right now the only champion he's ever fought against or beat was Andrei Arlovski, who was way past his prime.
Yeah.
This is where it really drives me nuts. He acts like Tom Aspinall hasn't done anything because he hasn't beaten enough champions. The only champion that he's beaten is Tom Aspinall. Is Andrei Arlovski. That's the only champion that Tom Aspinall has defeated. Well, my question is, who does Jon Jones want Tom Aspinall to defeat? Does he want him to dig up the dead body of Junior Dos Santos? Pull Cain Velasquez out of a prison cell and beat him to a bloody pulp? Who does he want him to fight? Fabricio Werdum, the dead body of Fabricio Werdum, who's well past his prime as well? The only two former heavyweight champions or current heavyweight champion, the only two people connected to a heavyweight title that Tom Aspinall has available to him would be Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic, both of which who seem hell-bent on not fighting him. So while I understand what Jones is saying, and I've even said it myself, there will always be the next guy for Jones. Jones has been around for so long, there will always be that next guy. But to try to diminish Tom Aspinall by saying, well, he hasn't beaten any champions, it makes zero logical sense. Absolutely drove me nuts. Who do you want him to beat? You want him to go down to light heavyweight and beat Yuri? Jamal Hill? I don't know. What champions do you want him to defeat that would be credible at all? There's none. There's none for him to beat.
He won an interim championship against Sergey And Sergey just got murdered his last fight.
By a guy that Tom Aspinall already defeated. But fair enough. I understand. I've even said I think Tom Aspinall's resume is massively overhyped because the heavyweight division is garbage. But at the end of the day, oh, well, he won his interim title against Sergey, and then Sergey got destroyed. Well, the guy that destroyed Sergey, Tom also destroyed. Straight armbarred him in the first round. So, again, devoid of logic.
So it's like you're beating guys who aren't even champions, and you consider yourself a champion. He's not a champion, and if I were to maybe entertain fighting again, I would say the person that's most deserving, it would be Alex Pereira. You know, Alex has beat many champions. He's knocking out everybody left and right. He has the opportunity to become a 3-division champion by facing me. He's more of a legend and a star in America right now than Aspinall. And I feel like those are the type of fights that I'm looking for at this point in my career. Fighting legends, fighting real.
So all of what Jones just said, I hate to say it, it's true. Alex Pereira has a more established name, more, accolades in the sport, and is a bigger draw in America. Everything Jones said is right. But that doesn't change the fact we have to call this out for what it is. Jon Jones wants the easier fight for more money. And it's annoying. It's a bad look. When you are the GOAT of the sport, when you are the reigning heavyweight champion, and you have a guy in Tom Aspinall that everyone wants to see you fight, that is the interim heavyweight champion, regardless of how he got it, he's the interim heavyweight champion, and you're calling out a guy a weight class below, it is a really, really bad look, an embarrassing look. And what it is it's Jon Jones. He wants the easier fight for more money. That's where he is in his career. That's what I mean when I say that's Jon Jones. I'm not saying historically that's what he's done. I'm saying that's where he is in his career, and it's just a horrible, horrible look. Pereira's still a very tough fighter, but we all know what Jon Jones would do to him, and Jones is thinking the same thing, and he just wants that last big paycheck rather than risking it all with Tom Aspinall, which he even alludes to here in a second. One thing I will say, and I want to point out in this video, you guys know I love exposing hypocrisy. I may even make a full dedicated video on this week or maybe next week, depending on how everything flushes out. But I find it so funny, the MMA fans justify certain fights when it negatively impacts fighters they don't like in terms of undeserved title shots, deserved title shots. And they'll justify by saying, well, he's a bigger draw and this is a more meaningful fight. Like for example, people didn't care when Bilal got skipped over for Colby Covington. People didn't care when Magomed Ankalaev got skipped over for Khalil Roundtree. People didn't care when Muhammad Makayev got cut from the organization, but also skipped over for Steve Erceg. People didn't care in those instances. And in a lot of the cases, they said, oh, well, this guy's the bigger draw. Colby's a bigger draw. Khalil's more exciting. Well, you know what? I hate to throw it in your guys' faces because a lot of those people would say those types of things. And now, well, what about Jon Jones? Jon Jones and Alex Pereira are bigger draws than Tom Aspinall. Again, I'm not advocating for that by any means. I think the UFC would make that fight. And I think it's insane if they let him keep the heavyweight title. And if he fights Pereira, if the UFC makes that fight, it's going to be for the heavyweight title. But again, it's a massive hypocrisy of the MMA community. And I'm not saying everyone who's watching this video is in those groups. But if you are in those groups who laugh and enjoy when fighters you don't like get skipped over for a title shot, i.e. Bilal Muhammad, Magomed Ankalaev, the list goes on and on and on. You laugh and approve and co-sign when the UFC does that. It's your fault. It's your fault if Jon Jones skips Tom Aspinall and fights Alex Pereira instead. And again, I may make a whole video on that, so let's carry on. There's more to listen to, believe me.
Real stars, guys like Francis Ngannou, guys like Alex Pereira, guys like Stipe Miocic. I feel like that's the lane that I'm in, and I stay true to that. You know, Aspinall to me is no difference than an Owen St. Prude or Dominic Reyes or Anthony Smith. You're like just another up and comer that's exciting right now. And I'm not into gambling my legacy for what's exciting. I want legends on my resume.
One more.
Could you imagine he went out there, fought Tom Aspinall, and did him like Cyril Gahn? Could you imagine that? To compare Tom Aspinall, the level of hype that Aspinall has right now, to a Dominic Reyes or an Anthony Smith is just outright devoid of logic and ludicrous. Tom Aspinall has been going out there and KOing everybody in the first round. Okay, that's not even comparable. I understand fundamentally the point that Jon Jones is trying to make, and it's always going to be the case that there's always going to be the next guy. You know, if he beats Tom Aspinall, there's going to be, oh, he's scared of Jalton Almeida. If he beats Jalton Almeida, oh, he's scared of, you know, whoever's making their way up the ranks at the time. Shamil Gaziev. There's always going to be that guy, but to try to discredit Tom and say Tom's a Dominic Reyes is insane, especially considering Dominic Reyes took him to life and death. Okay, so it's just devoid of logic. And then the last clip I want to check out from the ESPN MMA interview is he's asked about a specific quote that Aspinall said. I think it was something along the lines of, Aspinall said, "You're fighting Stipe because it's the easier fight." By the way, the UFC is to blame for a lot of this as well. The UFC is making the fights at the end of the day. But I thought this was kind of like corny. Like, Tom hasn't even been talking that much, and he kind of acts like Tom's been talking mad shit on the sidelines. Maybe I've missed it. Maybe he has talked more than I've seen, but I just thought this was kind of crazy.
So I just look at Tom as a very arrogant young man who hasn't proved much. He's using his mouth to even be mentioned in such a serious conversation.
Tom Aspinall has not come out as arrogant at all, in my opinion. He's kind of just waiting. He wants to become an undisputed heavyweight champion, and he doesn't really have that opportunity. Now, I think ultimately, after Saturday night, if both guys are going to retire, Tom Aspinall will just be automatically elevated to the undisputed heavyweight champion. But, man, it's just a bad look. You could just say, look, Tom's great. Tom's great. But right now, I'm focused on Stipe Miocic. Right now, you know, I got business at hand. We're going to find out Saturday night. Shout out Max Holloway. And we'll see what comes next. You know, I kind of, want to add some legends to my resume. Maybe I'd rather do that. But to just kind of try to diminish Tom, it's just, in the way he's doing it, it's just lack of all logic. And people have even criticized me because I said Tom Aspinall's resume is overrated, and it is. But to say, oh, he's not fought any champions, I would never say that. That's just dumb. What champions is he supposed to beat? You know, I think this is a situation that the UFC created by putting an interim title on the line. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest point that Jones is missing is the fact that Tom Aspinall would be a massive fight. And if he went out there and starts Tom Aspinall, I think it would be huge for his legacy. Because at the end of the day, if Jones leaves and Tom Aspinall goes on a decent run, people are always going to say Tom Aspinall was better than him. Look, Jones ran. Jones ran from him. And I think if he went out there and fought Tom Aspinall, he's going to get, a massive check. Now, maybe this is all posturing by Jones. Maybe this all is negotiation tactics. But it remains to be seen. We're going to find out on Saturday after UFC 309. Now, I want to jump ahead or jump over to a Sportsnet interview with Jon Jones. Aaron Bronstetter did an interview with him. He did a great interview with him, asked him perfect questions. I will link this interview down in the description. This is not on YouTube. This is on the Sportsnet website. And right here, he basically asked him, look, Shogun gave you that opportunity. Shogun Hua gave you that opportunity. What about giving Tom Aspinall that opportunity? That's, you'll hear the question in a second, but that's the essence of the question. Listen to this.
Go with that.
When you did get a title shot, Shogun Hua was a guy that you really admired, and he gave you that opportunity to win the title. What's the difference between that and Tom Aspinall now coming up, with you being the big dog in the yard and him kind of being the young, beating a lot of the top 10 heavyweights right now? But what do you see as the difference between Shogun giving you a shot and you giving Aspinall a shot?
Well, I've always been a person to move on my own terms. I march to the beat of my own drum, and I just don't want to be one of those athletes who sticks around forever. I'm 37 years old, which is old for combat sports. If we were talking golf or basketball, it'd be different. But I fight for a living, and I don't think the fans realize my body and what.
So I get all this, but it's but then you're going to say you're going to fight Alex Pereira? It's one or the other. You just sound like you're scared of Tom Aspinall. And I don't think Jones is scared of Tom Aspinall. But man, is he putting his foot in his mouth? And also, great question, man. Well, Shogun Rua, he gave you that opportunity. Why aren't you giving that to Tom Aspinall? I know I'm paraphrasing. Love the question from Bronstetter there. And it goes on. It goes on.
What I've put it through over the years. We're also putting our brain on the line, you know? So I've been doing it for a very long time. I've been fighting for a very long time at the absolute highest level. And I just don't feel like I'm in a position to have to fight much longer. You know, I want to fight guys who have legacies that's worth challenging. And Tom simply doesn't have a legacy that's worth getting me out of bed. You know, he's not that important to me. It's not really a big deal to me. Now, Alex Pereira, on the other hand, that guy is a multiple-time world champion. He's a 2-division champion like myself. He's the person that I believe will be, I want to use the word worthy of being in there with me.
I get it. Again, I get it. But you know how bad this looks? Now, I don't want to fight Tom Aspinall. Give me Alex Pereira. And I know that's the biggest fight that they can make right now. And which is sad because this might come to fruition. And I'm going to be so annoyed. But it just looks horrible. Oh, give me the guy with no grappling, please. Because let's be honest. Jones would wreck Pereira badly. And that's what Jones is doing here. But what he's saying is correct. Pereira does have a better legacy than Tom Aspinall. But at the end of the day, how are you going to be heavyweight champion and not defend your heavyweight title against the interim champion? How are you not going to unify the belt against Tom Aspinall, the interim champion? It makes no sense. This is a horrible look.
I get that Tom's exciting and that a lot of young fans would love to see me challenged. But I've been doing that literally my whole career. I've been the main event my whole career. I've fought the number 1 contender my whole career. And Tom's late.
So keep doing it. Keep fighting the number 1 contender. And this time the interim champion. It's a massive fight. It would be a huge payday. And again, I hope and pray that maybe this is negotiation tactics because I really do want to see Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. I really do. And then Tom's late. Like, we get it. You've been around forever, but like, it is what it is. There's nothing you can do about that. Again, it's putting up these roadblocks that just don't really make sense. Roadblocks to a fight. And it just makes him look dumb. It really does.
I don't know if he went the amateur route, but I've been here since he was in high school. Since most people were in high school. Most of our fans were in high school. So it's just, right now, if I were to do it again, it would be against Alex Pereira, just because he actually has a resume worthwhile. Sorry for such a long answer.
So again, I understand what he's saying. What he's saying is true. Pereira does have a better resume. But you either fight Tom Aspinall or you relinquish the belt. You're not going to hold up the heavyweight division and not unify belts with the interim champion, which it seems like he's hell-bent on doing. But luckily, Aaron Bronstetter asked him directly. Well, a lot of people are upset you would hold up the heavyweight division and hang on to the heavyweight title when Tom Aspinall is the deserving number 1 contender. And luckily we get an answer here, but honestly, it just looks worse. I never thought I'd hear Jones say this. And the way he says it is just weird in general.
No, it's okay. Well, listen, I get where you're coming from. And I think that if anybody has the choice between Jon Jones retiring or Jon Jones fighting Alex Pereira, I think everybody's taking the latter choice. The big question, I think, in people's minds are, does the heavyweight title have to be on the line here? Because the heavyweight title, I think, with an interim champion, that's what people are kind of hung up on, is the unification of that title. Would you, say, relinquish the title and then fight Alex Pereira at just a heavyweight feature fight or go back down to light heavyweight? What's your mindset on the interim championship being kind of a hang-up?
Well, the interim championship shouldn't have been there in the first place. The only reason why there was an interim championship fight was because I got hurt and they needed to keep the importance of that Madison Square Garden.
This is true, guys. This is true. Regardless, it still exists. But Jones is 100% correct here. The UFC just threw the interim title out there just to throw it out there. Tom Aspinall was on a 1-fight win streak against Marcin Tybura and got an interim title shot. But at the end of the day, this is we can't just go back and pick and choose. This is the reality we're in now. Tom Aspinall is the interim champion. He beat Sergey Pavlovich. Now he beat Curtis Blades. He deserves a title shot now.
But Sergey and Aspinall shouldn't have been fighting for an interim title in the first place. They should have just been a replacement fight, just a main event fight. I think making it an interim fight was premature. And now you have a bunch of confused people. You know, when you have a dominant champion that's been around as long as I have, there was no reason to put an interim championship belt out there. So that's the repercussion of Madison Square Garden last year.
And luckily, he didn't answer the question. He did shake his head earlier when asked, well, does the heavyweight title have to be on the line? But luckily, Bronstetter follows up yet again. This is a great interview. I love when the questions the fans want to hear, questions that I want to hear asked to, whether it be Dana White or certain fighters, in this case, Jon Jones, are actually asked. And this is a perfect question.
So would you care if a title was on the line against Alex Pereira? You'd be happy with it being a feature fight?
It'd be cool to fight over the heavyweight championship, but I would also willingly give up the heavyweight championship.
Do you know how damning that is? If he was just saying, look, I got one more in me and I'm done. I'm going to defend my heavyweight title against the heavyweight GOAT and Stipe Miocic and then I'm done. That's perfectly acceptable. I'm not happy with it, but that's acceptable. The fans would have to get over it. But to say, I might still stick around, but I'll relinquish my belt instead of fighting Tom Aspinall just so I can fight Alex Pereira, potentially still at heavyweight. By the way, guys, spoiler alert, if the UFC does Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira, they're doing it for a heavyweight title. You think they're going to risk Pereira winning that fight and not being the first ever 3-division champion? No way, shape, or form. They would never do that. If they fight each other, it will be for the heavyweight title. And guess what? Tom Aspinall is going to be SOL if that's the case, because they will leave him high and dry. And again, I'll kind of swivel back to this. The fans who laughed when Bilal got skipped over for Colby, the fans who laughed when Ankalaev got skipped over for Roundtree, it's your fault. It's your fault, because you are it's a slippery slope. I talk about this all the time. It's a slippery slope. And when we don't give the UFC pushback, when they make horrible decisions just because it may benefit a fighter you like and disadvantage a fighter that you don't like, this is the result. The UFC just starts going willy-nilly, title shot to this guy who doesn't deserve it. This guy who's on this crazy winning streak, is not getting his title shot. And at this point, if they do Jones versus Pereira, Ankalaev's getting skipped over again. And that's horseshit. Let me say this right now. This is going to be a really hot take. Ankalaev is more deserving of a shot at Pereira than Aspinall is of a shot at Jon Jones. And I think they both deserve a shot, but I'm just saying, it'll be ridiculous. We'll essentially have an interim champion and a number one contender who undeniably have earned their shot at undisputed gold, and they're not going to get it if this happens. I hope and pray it doesn't happen. I don't think it will, but I'm not ready to die on that hill just yet. I'm not even confident that it won't happen.
I walked away from the light heavyweight championship, and I'd love to walk away from this one as well, on top, on his own terms, good head and shoulder, making lots of money.
Again, if you've retired, that's fine. That's a good look. Round of applause. Great career. But if you say, I'm going to give up my belt, but I'm still going to fight, people are going to remember that forever. Oh, you willingly relinquished your title rather than fighting Tom Aspinall. He better pray Tom Aspinall loses soon if he does that. He better pray. But let's carry on. There's more.
I love the position that I'm in right now. Fighting Pereira for the Banff belt, that'd be cool.
Who calls the BMF belt the Banff belt? This is the part that really actually irked me. First off, the BMF belt is a corny-ass WWE title that is meaningless, and that you're calling it the Banff belt? I've never heard anyone utter those words before. And when I heard that, I wanted to jump through the screen, okay? And I wanted to mercilessly attack Jon Jones. The Banff belt? I'm already pissed off because you're calling it the Banff belt. But to say, yeah, I'd rather relinquish my title. I'd rather relinquish my title than fight Tom Aspinall. But I'll fight Pereira for the Banff belt. Maybe he's saying badass. I don't know. MFer? I don't know. What a stupid. I mean, this is just looking worse and worse and worse. I would literally rather him say, now, if I fight Pereira, I'm going to defend my heavyweight title. He deserves an opportunity to become 3-division champion. What he's done in the light heavyweight division over the last year has been incredible. I think he deserves a shot to be 3-division champion. Tom will have to wait. Now, that would grind a lot of people's gears. I would respect that more than, oh, I'll relinquish the belt and I'll fight for the Banff belt. It's just annoying.
We both have 2 belts in 2 weight classes, and the night we fought, we'd be both fighting for our 3rd belt, which would be the Banff. How cool would that be? You heard it here first. I haven't had this conversation with any other reporter.
It wouldn't be cool at all. It'd be fucking stupid, John. It'd be corny. We're going to have a legend of the sport in Jon Jones and the GOAT fight Alex Pereira, who is the current light heavyweight champion and has already ducked Magomed Ankalaev once, regardless if that's his decision or the UFC's decision. And now you guys are going to fight each other. What is this? It should be the ducking belt. I don't even know, the DMF. The ducking MFer. If we're going to do Pereira, Jon Jones, I mean, seriously. This is just stupid. And the fact he's calling it the Banff belt is the most annoying thing that I've ever heard him say. But yet Jon Jones just keeps putting his foot in his mouth. I'd rather relinquish my title than to fight Tom Aspinall. He'd be better off saying, I'm focused on Stipe. I'm thinking about retirement. I don't know what the future holds. Tom Aspinall, people hype him up, but he could be here today, gone tomorrow. I don't know about a fight with him. I don't know how much that means for my legacy. I'd even be okay with that. I wouldn't necessarily agree with it. I wouldn't be okay. I would be okay with that. But instead, I'll give up my belt and I'll fight for the Banff belt. Give me the Banff. How cool would that be, Aaron? It wouldn't be cool at all. It wouldn't be cool at all. This is actually annoying me, and it's like diminishing any hype that I may have already had, for UFC 309, which wasn't very much to begin with because Stipe has been inactive for 4 years. Okay? So Jon Jones really disappointing me. I understand a lot of where he's coming from, and I think a lot of people are kind of missing the points of what he's making because there always will be that next guy. And at the end of the day, a lot of fans are really hammering home Tom Aspinall because they think Tom Aspinall is the best chance for Jones to lose, and they want Jones to lose before he retires. But the way Jones is responding and making these statements that are just outright devoid of logic are driving me nuts. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.